We're joined in the studio by Matthew Warren from the Business Desk. Thank you for coming in. Starting here in France, it's a bit of a U-turn on an unpopular tax, that wasn't even in place yet, but it's the eco-tax. Tell us more.
That's right. Yeah, it didn't even get off the ground and it's already been suspended. Now, that was following these violent scenes that we saw in Brittany at the weekend. That's bound to have had a lot to do with putting this tax on ice, if you like. This is the sort of thing that we saw. But there are actually some budget issues relating to this decision to suspend the tax. One is that the government will have to keep paying for the expensive infrastructure they've put in place. This company, EcoMove, won the contract for that. Now, whether or not the tax is operating, EcoMove need to be paid 250 million euros a year they will get. And as well as that, the government won't now get the tax revenue that they thought they were going to. That's 750 million euros that was destined for infrastructure projects. Now, what that means is that either those infrastructure projects won't go ahead or they'll have to find the money from elsewhere. That could mean more taxes elsewhere or spending cuts elsewhere as well. We'll have to see.
Moving now to the markets, and we saw some record highs on Wall Street on Tuesday. How are the Asian markets doing this Wednesday?
Well, the Asian markets seem to have picked up on that strong lead, Luke, that they got from Wall Street. This is how things are looking. All of them, as you can see, doing well. The Nikkei in Japan, the Shanghai Composite, both well over 1% as well. But how about this for a good investment away from the stock market? 4 years ago, a Norwegian man spent $27 buying the digital currency Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoins weren't very well known back then, and he forgot all about them. But he then saw all of the media interest that there's been in the Bitcoin since then, remembered that somewhere he had stored away some details about this investment and discovered that, in fact, rather than $27, it's now worth $886,000. That's not a bad surprise to get, is it?
That's a pretty good windfall, it has to be said, for something you forget about.
Exactly. Well, if that man lives in Vancouver, he could actually use the very first Bitcoin ATM machine. Now, it's been installed in a coffee shop there and is a way to convert the digital currency immediately into cash. The value of the Bitcoin has increased well above what that man paid for it a few years ago. It was $13 in January, over $200 now for a Bitcoin.
That's certainly good. A good return there. Staying with Bitcoin and here in Europe, it's Berlin that's become the capital of the currency. Many businesses are already accepting payment with the Bitcoins. Franz van Katz, correspondent in the German capital, sent us this report.
There's no need to use your cash to buy your beer here. The Room 77 bar in the Berlin district of Kreuzberg has been accepting payment with the digital currency Bitcoin for 2.5 years. The transaction is completed with a flash code and a digital wallet. The simple, fast and efficient method was what immediately attracted the boss.
Well, Bitcoin is a brilliant idea. Money that circulates without banks, without state control, apolitical money.
More than 20 tradespeople in the Greifswald district now accept Bitcoin, a currency you can exchange online. No bank fees, no middlemen, and the virtual cash agent receives the money after just a few minutes. Bitcoin is beyond the control of central banks and its production is limited, which has also attracted the Eurosceptics. Aaron Koenig organises a monthly Bitcoin stock exchange, which he advertises on the internet.
It's clear the euro will crash sooner or later. In this context, it's good to possess a strong currency which doesn't depend on a central bank. Then you're definitely secure.
Nearly 12 million bitcoins are currently in circulation. That's the equivalent of more than 1 billion euros. And governments are taking its expansion seriously. The German finance minister chose to give it the status of private money in order to enforce control.
With this recognition, the Bitcoin has lost its anonymity and its independence from financial institutions.
Will Bitcoin become a victim of its own success? Not here in Berlin, anyway. 20 local tradespeople are preparing to turn into community Bitcoiners.
Our correspondents in Germany sending us that report on the Bitcoin. I've got two more pieces of news from the technology sector for you, Luke. Sales at the social networking site LinkedIn came in better than expected. The company said that it's actually recruitment firms using the site that's really helping to boost those results. Of course, that's the way it makes a lot of money. In fact, half of its revenues come from these recruitment firms that go on there looking for candidates and trying to find jobs for them. And staying with social networking, could Facebook be interested in buying up BlackBerry? Well, Reuters reporting, or rather the Wall Street Journal reporting, I should say, that executives from the two companies met in California last week. That's raising suspicion, perhaps, that Facebook could be interested in taking over BlackBerry. Of course, it's up for sale. It's already had an offer from its biggest shareholder, Fairfax Financial Holdings, which wants to buy the company and take it private after, of course, BlackBerry been struggling for so long, as it's seen Apple and Samsung really taking over in the smartphone market.
Well, that could well be an interesting move of a Facebook into the hardware market. Thank you, Matthew, for that business update. You're watching France 24's live from Paris, the morning edition. Let's take a look now at the web news, which includes defying the censors in China, where web users attempt to comment on the Tiananmen car crash, despite the government's information blackout.
A car ploughed through a crowd of people in Tiananmen Square in China.